Deep-sea diving is certainly a skill which requires nerves of steel, for you never know what you might come across in the murky depths of the sea. Oceans, being as vast and deep as they are, hold untold artifacts and history since time immemorial. This is the reason why curious men and women have been trying to unravel its mysteries that have been locked away for thousands of years. Today we'll be exploring the 14 most chilling things ever to be found by deep-sea divers, and it's a sight which will strike fear amongst the faint of heart. Before we dive in, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe and click the notification bell for more amazing content. Number 14. Underwater Missile Silo. In all movies and video games, abandoned nuclear bunkers look more or less the same, and they all seem frightening. Terrible black and yellow signs on the walls, huge doors and a deadly silence. Now imagine all this but in real life and at a depth of 33.5 meters underwater. If you're a fan of extreme diving, you can visit this place in Washington. It's the partially flooded Titan missile silo. It was designed to launch nuclear missiles, but now there are no missiles left. The facility is built to withstand a huge explosion. Maybe swimming here is more frightening than playing stalker alone at home in the dark. Would you dive here? Number 13. Ghosts of War. One of the scariest military underwater cemeteries is located at the bottom of Chuuk Lagoon in Micronesia. More than 50 ships are buried here along with the remains of different planes. All of them ended up in this place as a result of a terrible battle during World War II. The lagoon was used by the Japanese troops as a naval base, and on February 17, 1944, the United States dealt it a devastating blow. Air and submarine attacks continued for 2 days, killing more than 1,000 people, destroying 13 warships and 32 merchant ships, and shooting down 270 planes. Most of the equipment is perfectly preserved, but we would not risk going inside since the bodies of some soldiers have never been recovered. This is probably one watery grave which will remain undisturbed for years to come. Number 12. Scary Ship. Fancy yourself a sunken treasure? Well, deep-sea explorers found a ship full of gold and silver coins at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. But it doesn't end there. The fact is that in addition to the jewels, the bodies of more than 800 sailors are inside the ship Mars, so the treasure is literally protected by skeletons. By the way, the wooden ship sank as a result of the explosion of the cannons on the deck in 1564, but it's still in really good shape. Surprising, right? According to legend, a ghost rose from among the depths of the sea to protect the ship from being detected, but a few years ago scientists found it. Just imagine all the treasure that was locked away for close to 500 years. Number 11. Gnomes in the lake. Forget about giant octopuses, Cthulhu and megalodons. Simple objects at the bottom of the ocean look much creepier. Look at what a group of divers in Loch Fyne in Scotland have discovered at a depth of 30 meters. Garden gnomes. The appearance of one of them could be explained as an incredible coincidence, but where did this collection come from? Most of these figures have been underwater for years, but one figure looks new. Apparently the owner added it recently. Not far from this place there's another lake, Loch Ness, where the very famous Loch Ness monster lives. Maybe Nessie has something to do with this. Number 10. Sunken City. Our next stop is China. If you feel uncomfortable walking alone on a deserted street at night, diving into an artificial lake in Zhejiang province will scare you even more. At a depth of 40 meters, there's a huge city about 1,400 years old. Although it's not the famous Atlantis, the impression caused by this place is remarkable. Imagine yourself among the ancient temples, walls with reliefs and paved roads, and not a single living soul around. Until the middle of the 20th century, the city of Xicheng, also known as Lion City, was located on the surface, but in 1959 the authorities decided to flood it for the construction of a new power plant. Surprisingly, after so many years, even the wooden structures are still standing. It's truly a world where time stood still. Number 9. Alien in Russia. Imagine you finally decide to practice diving. You're a little nervous at first and it's difficult to navigate in the muddy water, and suddenly you're staring head-on with a huge xenomorph. Most likely you'll be swimming out at a frenzied speed while hoping to survive this ordeal. However, divers in the Russian city of Anapa decided that a 3-meter copy of an alien at the bottom of the Black Sea is a great way to entertain tourists. The divers created it themselves using thousands of details and installed it with a crane. According to them, the sculpture of the alien monster will help tourists remember the visit for life, and we think that it's definitely going to be the case. Number 8. Memorial Reef. At first glance, there's nothing scary about the Neptune Artificial Reef in Florida. On the contrary, it's one of the most beautiful dive sites in the world. It looks so good it might be the lost city of Atlantis, right? However, there is one detail: these works of art are made of cement and human ashes. That's right, Neptune is a memorial reef. After the cremation, the ashes are mixed with construction material and become part of the underwater world forever, an idea that seems to appeal to many people. The monument is open to all visitors, not just the relatives of the people who rest here. Just imagine swimming around a huge cemetery underwater. Quite the iron nerves on these divers. Would you brave a dive here? Number 7. Crosses underwater. Never dive on La Palma unless you're willing to end up with white hair. This is what awaits you at a depth of 20 meters, 40 creepy crosses covered with algae. The story of this installation is worthy of a horror movie. In 1570, the Portuguese missionary Inácio de Azevedo sailed with 39 companions to the coast of La Palma, but never made it ashore. The ship was captured by pirates. Its commander treated the crew in a really cruel manner. He threw the people into the sea and watched them slowly sink. In 2000, a monument was erected to commemorate the victims. We hope they finally found some peace. Number 6. Skeletons in the lake. We've probably found the place with the largest number of scary underwater objects in the world. It's Lake Mead in Arizona. Visibility here rarely exceeds 3 or 4 meters, so if the guide forgot to warn you, we're sure you'll be frightened to death. Imagine that you're swimming and suddenly you see this, a skeleton in a cage and 2 of its guards, one of them with a gun. The authorities here have known for a long time that the skeletons are fake. The divers installed them for fun. Apart from the 3 skeletons, you can also find floating heads and even hands sticking out of the bottom of the lake. Would you still dive down here knowing they're fakes? Number 5. SLENDERMAN underwater. Remember SLENDERMAN? It seems that everyone has forgotten about this creepy character, but most likely he's hiding in the waters of the Gulf of Thailand. Off the Thai island of Koh Tao, at least that's what divers familiar with the character might think, there's a sculpture at the bottom of the bay that looks just like the legendary villain. The installation was displayed in 2016 by artist Valérie Goutard. According to her idea, the bronze figures should remind us of the fragility of man and nature, but looking at the sculpture sure doesn't bring in that sentiment. Number 4. Lost Settlement. Researchers from England accidentally discovered a lobster throwing worked flints from its burrow off the coast of the Isle of Wight. For that reason, they decided to explore the area further. As a result, at the bottom of the strait, they found a Mesolithic settlement about 8,000 years old, several times older than the Egyptian pyramids. Even more surprising is the fact that the archaeologists found beautifully processed wooden construction beams and even traces of perhaps the first ships in the world. It turns out that our ancestors were more advanced than we thought. What else did they build 8,000 years ago which we still don't know about? Number 3. Human gyre. This one takes us to the Atlantic Ocean. A few years ago, off the coast of the Spanish island of Lanzarote, the first underwater museum in Europe was opened, El Museo Atlántico. Its collection includes more than 300 sculptures, but we have bad news for people who expect to see some fish or jellyfish among them. The main installation immediately tests the mental strength of the divers. It's a terrible gyre of 200 life-sized human figures. Its author, Jason DeCaris Taylor, claims that it's a symbol of our relationship with water. Mr. Taylor certainly has a wild imagination. Number 2. Giant Knife. Take a look at this truly extraordinary image which shows a team of scuba divers who retrieved a giant bladed object from the bottom of the ocean. The odd truth is almost nothing could be found about this object, although the image was believed to have been captured by a team of professional scuba divers back in 2014. Ever since the image hit the web, from private message boards to scuba diving forums, the people behind the photograph have never claimed ownership. Astonishingly, many people believe that this giant blade is yet another evidence pointing towards an ancient forgotten mystery. The thing is, some people believe that the giant blade is indicative of giant humanoids who once roamed the planet, and this was potentially a tool of theirs. Or perhaps even a weapon. While most are skeptical, it's certainly an interesting theory given the fact that dozens of ancient bladed artifacts have been unearthed from the bottoms of lakes, rivers and oceans throughout history. Until more details come out, this mystery will remain unsolved. Number 1. Monster Fish. Our first dive will take us to Lake Neuchâtel in Switzerland. Its maximum depth is 152 meters. At first the flashlights only illuminate the stones and algae. But what is this strange silhouette? It's a huge toothed and scary fish that looks like a hybrid between a crazy shark and an anglerfish. Imagine seeing this creature through a foggy mask. Would you realize it's just a sculpture before you have a heart attack? Of course, local divers know this place very well and think it's a prop that was left here after being used for a movie. Luckily, it doesn't move, but the fish around it also have frozen strangely. Prop or not, this monstrosity is bound to scare off any unsuspecting divers. Thank you for diving the depths and unraveling the 14 most chilling things ever to be found by deep-sea divers. What more creepy mysteries lie in wait in the oceans of the world? Thanks to the bravery of divers, more such stories will surface over time. Until then, we've only got our imaginations to count on. Which entry creeps you out the most? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, be sure to smash the like button, share and subscribe, and we'll be back with more. See ya!